happy birthday or something in the chat. All right, just one moment. I'm almost done sorting out my YouTube situation here. I think I have. I think I have sorted it out. I think I've sorted it out. And yeah, from there I'll just get going. And whenever anyone joins, we will take any questions, answers, so on and so forth. Hey man, Froggy Cooks, thank you, sir. It was a spectacular birthday, man. To be honest with you, I woke up this morning. My wife had already set up a little surprise birthday brunch situation for us at home. We enjoyed that. It was great. And then we went out on the town and hung out a bit. It was just a beautiful thing, hanging out with my wife and her siblings. What more can you ask for, man? It's pretty simple. So, by the way, Frogger Cooks, where are you joining us from today? Right. Hello to. Well, that's a very long name. I love asking stupid questions. What's up? I love asking stupid questions. That's incredible. Listen, guys, what I want to talk about today, okay, is this concept of a falling empire. The West is clearly a falling empire. If you've been to Europe, okay, I was in Austria last week. Last week I was in Austria. And I have to be honest with you, man, I was kind of surprised. The place was not what I expected it to be. Yes, of course, it's a developed nation, but most of the buildings are really ancient. But instantly, something that started to strike me was the homelessness, which I was seeing in Austria. It's a very interesting place, to say the least. So I went to Vienna. I took the train from the airport, right, straight to Vienna. Took a scooter, rode around the city a little bit. It was a great experience altogether, right? These people seem to have a little weird thing with there's a strange sexual history going on with Vienna that's I have not fully uncovered it, but just walking around, something seemed unusual. Well, I'll dive into it at some other point. All right, Frogger Cooks join us from the US. All right, brother, beautiful. So, listen, before we get going, let me share my screen here. Okay, I want to show this. I want to share this with you guys. This here is. I should probably get this on a bigger screen on TikTok. Stand by. All right. So, what I'm sharing with you guys here, right? This is something that has repeated itself over and over again. And this is the phases of a falling empire. And I'm just gonna, tap on the key topics, right, when it comes to a falling empire. And you guys let me know if I'm tripping or not. But if you ask me, I will say that we are clearly going through some of these things in the West, at least in the United States. So your life is not eligible for recommendations and restricted results. Because this thing is saying my life contains unoriginal or reproduced content. Right? I'm not sure what this is about, but I'm just gonna keep rolling. Is it you're not allowed to show a query from AI? That's a strange one. But I'm just gonna keep rolling. All right. Uh, let's see. Who do we have joining us here? Hunter. Hunter. Thanks for joining the chat, man. Thanks for joining the stream. Um, it's a beautiful day to have you joining us. All right, let me touch on these things here. So when an empire is in decline, this is something that has happened before, multiple times, right? Roman Empire. Um, geez, the empires are running away from my head right now. Uh, Songhai Empire, right? You also have some other empires in Africa. Geez, I'm drawing a blank right now, but as these empires come back to my head, I'll definitely share with you guys. Look, the peak of an empire and overextension phase, right? This is where the empire is at its maximum territorial and economic size. but it becomes logistically impossible to defend or administer effectively, stretching the military and financial resources too thin. If we look at the US right now, this is a nation that has bases all across the world. I would imagine that this is not cheap. This is US tax dollars, right? Getting stretched to the maximum. Meanwhile, back home, people in the US are like, hey man, we need some assistance as well. But these guys are like, nah, okay, we have some shit to blow up in the Middle East. So this is one of those situations. Next, you have the physical crisis phase. If you look at it right now, I think since even before COVID, right? You had the 2008 financial crisis. Then we came to COVID, where they printed a ton of money and pumped it into the economy. And then we now find ourselves where we are right now, where they're trying to pull out this money from the economy by cranking up interest rates. But we see that things are not really aligning because the housing market is still not really crashing, but it's also overpriced. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you guys let me know if any of you are in the market for a house. Would you not agree that the housing market is overpriced at this point in time? So you have that. And then you also have the fact that if you look at the stock market, a huge percentage of the stock market right now is just driven by AI, right? So let's see. By the way, Frog Cooks, please let me know if you can still, if you're still seeing my stream, because I did get a warning from TikTok here about unoriginal content. But all I'm really doing is just sharing a sharing a screen share. I'm just sharing an AI screen, right? But we'll move on here. So just let me know if you're not able to see my stream. I think I'm going to end the stream and restart it again. Actually, so we have this. We are now in this phase where the US is definitely overextended, right? The physical crisis is definitely there, and then you have the elite disconnect phase, and also you have this military dependency and barbarization phase. Listen, kidnapping Maduro, I think we can call that barbarism. Sanctioning Cuba completely to the point where they're now having blackouts, I think that's barbarism. If we look at what is happening across from Egypt, Gaza, listen, I don't know, man. It seems like barbarism to me. Then you swing over to Iran. It was barbarism, but it has been met with equal power, is what I'll say. It has been met with equal power. Now, when it comes to the elite disconnect phase, this is the part that we're going to be reacting to this video, because when you look at someone like PBD and when you look at someone like Kevin O'Leary, both of these guys, I would say they fall under that elite group. You understand? So, yeah, we're going to be taking a little bit of a dive into this and looking at the delusion that these guys are living in. It seems to me that one of the things that these guys are constantly afraid of accepting is the fact that China is on this rise, or China is, a global superpower at this point and well respected at that. So we're going to be taking a look at that as well. All right. So I'm gonna restart my stream on TikTok because it seems as though these people are not letting me stream on my TikTok for whatever reason. So once we come back, we're going to be looking at this debate that Patrick Bet-David had here with this economist, and this is from Ebb and Flow on YouTube. I like the breakdown that he did on this video. So I'm just going to end my YouTube stream, and I'm sorry, I'm going to restart my Twitch stream, and I will be right back. All right. We are back. All right. So when it comes to the decline of an empire, right? There is this phase, which I just mentioned here. I just call it the denial phase. That's what I call it. But this is elite disconnect phase. I think if we're looking at the elites right now in the US, it is very clear to me that there is a huge disconnection between the elites, the extremely wealthy, and the average person. You understand what I mean? So yeah, let's run this. I'm gonna play this, and yeah, you guys just let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll talk about it.
Never brought up vaccine. You brought up vaccine.
Okay, well let's go back to food. Okay,
but no, let's stay on that. Let's stay
on.
on vaccine if you brought it up, and let's just move on past
You know
this.
what's in the air. You know what's in the air. You know what's in the air. You know.
Yeah, this is from a week or two ago now, but he did this debate with this economist, and I think that he lists this economist, at least in one of these videos, as being a socialist, but he's not actually a socialist by his own definition. He calls himself post-Keynesian, which basically, the way he describes it, just means that he tries to take a non-partisan or non-political approach to economics, which means being influenced by figures like, as well as being critical of him as he is critical of the neoclassical school of thought in economics. So that's kind of what they talk about here, but PBD shows his inability to engage with this idea of like not just being a communist.
I do have to say, as we go into this, okay, PBD is definitely one of those people that it contains unoriginal PBD is definitely one of those people that you know, he definitely he doesn't come across as genuine to me in most situations. You understand? He doesn't come across as genuine to me in most situations. And it seems he just rolls with whichever stance aligns with whatever concept that he's pushing. In most cases, it's this conservative concepts, right, that he's trying to push. And for example, you know, this guy is Iranian, but sometimes when you hear him talk about Iran, it is very strange. It just seems like there is some level of disingenuity there, because I think this guy was aware of how capable Iran was, yet he chose to carry on like it's really not a concern. He chose to behave as though he felt that the US was just going to walk into Iran and crush Iran. However, I know that there is a video from a long time ago where PBD was outlining why it would be a horrible idea to engage in war with Iran. But then, suddenly the guy changed his stance. Who knows why? Right? Who knows why? But yeah, we're just going to run it. It seems that the TikTok stream is not going to be a go today. It just seems I'm running into a lot of issues with I don't know if I call it copyrights, but my stream is not getting recommended there. This is the nature of the beast, huh? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. All right. Just a quick second here. Let me see if I can make one quick change. Well, to be honest, I'm streaming to one person, so I'm just gonna take my time. I'm just gonna take my time and sort this out. Let's see. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's see. Is that gonna work? All right. Alrighty. Well, I think I'm just going to restart my I'm going to restart my Twitch stream, but I'm not going to share anything which I'm doing from I'm not going to share anything that I'm doing from the YouTube stream on Twitch, and I think that should help solve our problems there. Because I wanna crush some numbers. I wanna target some numbers, get to some numbers when it comes to my Twitch. Yeah, it's time to level up the Twitch, man. I've been telling myself that I want to stream for a while, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. I've been kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I've not really been slamming it like I should, but I think I have the opportunity here to just zero in for the next few days and just get some good streaming in. So if you guys have some topics that you would like for me to talk about, right? Just let me know. I'm down to dig into it, put together a show, and deliver a beautiful stream to you all. All right. Ending the TikTok live now. I'm going to end this now. All right. And we're going to begin a new stream on TikTok. Please, if you're watching this thing after it's recorded, man, just do some proper skipping. Let's see. Go live. All right. All right, the bitrate of the stream seems good. All right, stream bitrate seems good. Let's run this thing. All right, you might hear the audio on Twitch Sorry, you might hear the audio on TikTok, but not the video. Right.
Or a capitalist. Like, he just cannot view the world outside of that paradigm, and you could see this economist getting pretty frustrated by that, because he's making some nuanced arguments about, you know, public versus private ownership and which sectors of the economy should be given over to public ownership. He also makes an interesting point that it seems like in general society is moving towards more public ownership, while also criticizing the labor theory of value and different things that sort of formed the orthodox Marxist school of thought. So without getting too bogged down in the technicals yet, here's PBD talking to Steve Keen.
What is the right way for us to judge an economical system, communism versus capitalism, to say, well, capitalism produced this, what did communism produce? Not much. And even, you know,
Now, look, hang on. No, that's
when
not
you're
true.
talking about
That's
China,
not true.
let me finish this. When you're talking about China,
Okay.
China even had to go and, you know, sit down with Japan to find out how they were growing exponentially. And then finally they said, look, you got a couple banks in China. You need a lot of banks. You need thousands of banks that are doing what they're doing. And then China finally listens and opened it up and realized they need a form of free market.
Well, if you're going to use the America versus China result,
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car.
Ads.
Okay, you ready? All right, $118 for car
Well,
insurance.
while this ad
That's
is
how much I
going-
was paying. Okay,
Okay, while this ad is going, and I go ahead and skip it here, this is one thing I want you to pay attention to. PBD says China had to go sit down with Japan to figure out how they could achieve this exponential growth. What I want to point out there is that if you notice, what he's essentially admitting to is that China was willing to learn. China was willing to learn and implement things. And when you do that, then you have the ability to, you know, you can take the good and leave the rest out. All right. So let's keep going.
rate of economic growth and China's lifting of people out of poverty.
Hey, we have some people joining the TikTok stream. Rick James, Dino Fox, Fearless. Thank you guys for joining the stream, man. Please be sure to hit the like button as you join the stream. Today, I am talking about the phases of a dying empire, and specifically the denial phase of a dying empire, right? There is this points where the elites become disillusioned, right? And so during those phases, there's clearly a huge disconnection, right? And they're no longer engaged with the general public. They don't even understand what the average person is going through, and they're definitely in denial of the downfall. Don't get me wrong, the US is a very wealthy place. But what does all this wealth mean if you're now just standing there with all this money and your hand in your schlong and nothing is happening? Your country looks like, like it's not a country of the wealthiest people, It does not match, it's not adding up. It's not adding up. So we're listening to a debate that PBD had with an economist here. And I'll just be giving my thoughts on this.
It transcends anything America's achieved over its time. So the American industry has lost complexity, lost sophistication. China's increased its complexity, increased its sophistication, and since the Deng Xiaoping reforms, which are absolutely critical, occurred, you've had something like over 500 million people raised from
so here he's
poverty.
starting with this framing of communism versus capitalism. This is common for him, common amongst a lot of conservatives, but especially for him, he really seems locked into these very basic thought processes, and he makes these sort of visual points and has sort of like rhetorically manipulative ways of going through these subjects. But it is kind of interesting to watch as he tries to frame something in very specific terms, and then watching someone to kind of struggle to give him an answer that he accepts, and he'll just kind of keep coming back to the same question over and over again if he doesn't get that. And you see a few examples of this throughout this. But what Steve Keen is saying here is that China, though it did have to open itself up to some market capitalism, he's also saying that they had a way of instituting that, and the structure that they built upon in adding those market reforms is better at meeting the basic needs of its people. And so challenging this idea that PBD is putting out there, where essentially under his framework, and he basically says this, that he considers China a capitalist nation, not a communist nation. So it's a little bit hard to see then what exactly is his criticism of China, because he'll be happy to call it a communist nation if he's talking about like their government or their censorship or their control or whatever. But on the economic side, he says, okay, they are a capitalist nation. So Steve Keen is saying they open themselves up to some market reforms, which is good, especially in terms of certain things that should be done by the private sector. However, you have some things that should only be done by the public sector, and when you don't have them done by the public sector, you see a degradation in those services. And this is another thing that PBD
Yeah, so these are some really great points that he's making here. In my experience from going to China, right, I think China, if I was going to put it in a very simplistic way, I would say that in the US, you have political freedom, right? You can protest against, your leaders and things like that. You have economic freedom to a certain extent, right? Because realistically, you cannot really compete with the biggest companies in the US. They will buy you out and they will shut you down. I think we can all see this when you look at. Here's what I'll ask you guys, man. Why is it that in the US, the CEOs that we have in the US are the same CEOs that have been there since the beginning of I don't know when, there is just a handful CEOs of major companies in the United States. You have Apple, you have Microsoft, right? You have Tesla, you have what are some other major companies in the US, right? You have GM, Ford, Chrysler. So in each sector, there is just when it comes to social media, you have Mark Zuckerberg. I don't think that it is because there has not been competition. There's been a lot of people that have come up with great ideas to compete with these guys. But the reality of the matter is, whenever you get to that point where you try to compete against these guys, right, on a grand scale, what happens is they buy you out. Oh, we cannot use that screen. They buy you out, and then they shut down your business, right? And so you cannot compete with them. So what is the point? What is the point at that point? Because, hang on, guys. I am messing up my cameras here. We're going to turn that one off here. We'll just leave it this way. I have to sort out my camera situation because if I use the same camera that I'm using for YouTube right now, I get a restriction on TikTok. I don't really understand very well how all of these things are working, but thank you guys for joining the live. By the way, please like the stream as you come in. Please like the stream as you come in, so that we can gain some momentum on the channel. And of course, if you would be so kind, follow. Let me know if you guys can hear me very well on TikTok, by the way. So thank you for joining Astro. All right, we have 99. Thanks for joining us. Andy, Abubakar, Justin Sullivan. That name sounds official. Thanks for joining us. Dorito Edits, Faded Ruin. Thanks for joining us. Trey joined us. King ER joined us. All right. Mike Devil, CV, too good for you. Man, listen, man, I've been having to try to water down my CV because these days, if you have too good of a CV, it does not work out. But anyway, what was I saying? I want to digress. If you look at the US, right, most of the sectors there do not have a huge competition. You just have a situation where a group of companies have purchased everyone in their sector, and shut everyone else out. They're able to control the pricing. There is no real challenge to them. However, if you compare this to China, you see that with China, there is way too many companies in every sector. And this makes the competition absolutely ferocious. So there is extreme economic freedom in China, I would say, as long as you're able to engage in this cutthroat competition, right? But the good thing with it is, when these companies compete, this is good for the customer. This is why China has been able to achieve these levels of efficiency that it has now, and being able to produce things at the price point that they are now, versus the US model, where we can see that almost every US company has become sloppy, slow, and really lack creativity at this point. So how do we get around this situation? But on the flip side, what I would say is, in China, you probably do not have that the political freedom like you would in the US. But if you ask me, I cannot necessarily tell you that this is a bad thing. I don't know if this is a bad thing either, because what I saw when I was in China is that the government has done everything they can to provide all the basic necessities for the people, to keep them happy, so that there is no political riots and so on and so forth, right? I think in general, if we look at it, the Chinese population seems to be more okay with their government than the US population is. I'm pretty sure there are people in the US who want to protest right now because of all the insanity that is going on. So I think this is something that is, worth considering. Let me know your thoughts in the chat as well. And please do not forget to like the double tap the screen so that we can get the likes up on on this TikTok stream. Mr. Keys, thanks for joining. Jamie, pew pew in the house. Okay. Isaiah, right? Dusty Blue. And some complicated names to read. Darker, it's ED59, YRN Cam. All right, I'm going to play a little bit more of this video here. We're going to be listening in on this debate between Patrick Bet-David and an economist who is based in China.
Understands. I know that he's able to understand this, but he kind of just refuses to wrap his head around it.
So there's a division between what is a public good and is better provided in a public environment, and what is a private good, things like television sets and fancy restaurants and so on, which are best provided by the private sector. And there's also a time dimension to it. When you're looking at normally ordinary consumer goods, there's plenty of potential for a manufacturer to make a profit out of things like television sets and so on. You can't make a profit at the same scale up to sewerage systems, because 150 years ago you didn't worry about sewerage. You had shit running down the streets of London into the Thames River. If you move to a more advanced and sophisticated society, we can't tolerate that, and that means you have the state providing those services. If you leave it to the private sector, those services will break down.
Those services would break down. I mean, a lot of people would say anything produced by the government, it's shittier customer service. They treat you horrible. They can make you wait as long as possible. And free market, if they do that, they get complaints, and those complaints hurt their business. But
like I already mentioned, I've been to China, and everything PBD is saying right now is absolute bull crap, man. Absolute bull crap. This is that phase I'm talking about in the downfall of an empire, right? Where you have elites or extremely wealthy people who are disconnected from reality. These people tend to, and I think this is a thing, this is a phenomenon that I think is very unique with the US. You have these people who are experts on China, but it seems like most of these people never go to China, but they have a lot to say about China. It is mind-blowing to me. Let's carry on.
State doesn't have competition. What would the state worry about if They don't treat you well. They have a different energy when they talk to certain people. I was in the U.S. Army. I was in the military, and I've dealt with the state for a long time. I've never seen any customer service on how they treat people be better that's ran by the state than ran on the free market side.
Okay, so Steve Keen goes over in a second examples of the Chinese economy and how examples of, customer service essentially in the government that can be better than what we experience here in America. But even just this point that Patrick Bet-David is making here is a regular point that he likes to make, or the type of point that he likes to make, that because of competition, because of the market, that's what incentivizes businesses to employ people that have good customer service, to reward that sort of thing. Now, it's true that the market does provide a sort of mechanism for that, but in a second here, you'll see that when Keen provides the opposite counterweight to that example under the Chinese system, how they do it for bureaucrats under the Chinese system, PBD says that is fear-based. So the market-based incentive that incentivizes good customer service and whatnot, that is not fear-based, but rather merit-based, I suppose. And yet he completely skips over this idea that there are certain things that the market just doesn't do well. The market simply fails to provide these things to people. And that shifts into talking about the American healthcare system.
If you become a bureaucrat in China, you have a set of guidelines that you're required to reach, and if you don't reach them, you either get sacked or you don't get promoted, and you get ossified. And that seems to be a large part of why the public services in China seem extremely well provided, and certainly better than what you get in America.
I don't understand how PBD refers to what the economist is describing here. This economist Ed, I don't understand how PBD is describing this as fear-based. It sounds like performance-based. If you're hired at any institution in the US where they have some KPIs, right? KPIs is one of those words that I like to use. Key performance indicators. If you're not reaching those targets, then there is consequences for this. But in the US, I guess they call it KPIs. But I guess if it applies to China, it suddenly becomes fear-based leadership. This is the disconnection I'm talking about. It's so disingenuous.
America.
You said certainly better than what you get in America. So
transportation, public transportation.
So you feel service is going to be better rendered by the government than free market? What does the government lose? They don't have an alternative competition.
The best example of free market failing America is your health system. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't think so. I think we have a great health system. I think.
Do you now? It costs three times as much as the rest of the world.
Do you think?
You pay about 3 times as much per head for health as most Western nations do.
Our capita per GDP is also higher. If Australia was a state with,
if you're in the US, man, what do you think about the health system? Let me know in the comments. Okay, what do you think about the US health system? Do you think it's a great healthcare system compared to the rest of the world? Or, I mean, PBD thinks it's certainly great. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the US health system? I would like to get your take on it. And of course, I'm going to share my thoughts about it later on down the line. Look, this video here is a great one, but I'm going to jump to the next video here, which is, this is Kevin O'Leary with the same economist, all right? I believe his name is Steve Keen. This time around, they're talking about, Piers Morgan is hosting both of these guys. I appreciate Piers Morgan just keeping quiet for this one, because you guys know Piers Morgan does not stop talking. But you can see how out of touch Kevin O'Leary is, and the confidence. This is the thing. Most of the time, people who are wrong, who don't know what they're talking about, they seem to carry this level of confidence with them that is unmatched, and it's the scariest thing ever. Let's see. Juicy to co-host. Oh, actually, we can invite Juicy to co-host. There we go. Oh wait, hang on. Okay, well, actually, we're not gonna do any co-hosting right now. Stand by. Let's finish this video here on the stream. For YouTube at least, I'll end the YouTube stream and then I'll just focus on the TikTok stream solely. So, just give me a quick second here. Big, what's up, Big? Big says, "Damn." All right. I mean, if you are on TikTok, you're just going to hear the audio. You're not going to see the video because I'm getting a warning on TikTok when I share the videos from YouTube. But I'm just giving my reaction to some of the things that are happening as what seems to be the downfall of the U.S. empire, right? So let me just run this and then I'll give you guys some thoughts on it.
Kids living under Chinese rule
Well,
anywhere
your
in the
kids
world.
can stay
That's
where
what
they are,
want.
but I think a lot of kids in China are enjoying growing in China right now. Dominate China, and China's been far more effective at driving people out of poverty, and it's also whipping America's industrial ass.
I just watched this segment from Piers Morgan's show, and I genuinely think it's one of the most revealing exchanges I've seen in a long time. And what unfolds is basically a masterclass in how the West talks itself out of learning anything from China. Every single time Professor Keene brings up a concrete observation, O'Leary pivots to an abstraction, things you can't measure, can't verify, and can't hold anyone accountable for failing to deliver. But okay, before we jump in, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel grow. All right.
This video, by the way, is from North Meridian. Credit to him. I thought it was a really great breakdown he did on this back and forth here between Kevin O'Leary and Steve Keene.
Let's get into it.
Korea.
And what about China?
Russia.
Okay, well, this is the elephant in the room we finally have. People have been saying to me for decades, what country is trying your approach? I've had me say that I can't nominate one. Now I can nominate China. And China's been far more effective at driving people out of poverty, and it's also whipping America's industrial ass. Now, this is something which you're going to tell me China's communist, or rather capitalist. That'll be good fun. It's the one country which is focused upon redistribution, raising the poor up, and extending the services the vast majority of the public achieve. You might not know of John, you probably know of John Kenneth Galbraith. One of his most famous comments was to talk about America being characterized by private affluence and public squalor. And that really is the state of America. China's gone the opposite direction. It wants public affluence as well as private affluence. It showed the combination works. Now that is completely against the narrative you're giving.
Okay, let's just sit with what Keene actually said here, because it's the thing that almost never gets said on Western television. He's not making a moral argument. He's not saying China is virtuous or America is evil. He's making an observational one. China has been more effective at drawing people out of poverty. This is just true. It's the largest poverty reduction in human history. Hundreds of millions of people in one generation. Under the system O'Leary is about to tell you is the enemy of human flourishing. China is far ahead compared to America's industrial capacity. Again, just true. Steel production, shipbuilding, E versus solar panels, batteries, drones, 5G infrastructure, high-speed rail. The list is so long now that you either acknowledge it or you're just not serious. And then he brings in Galbraith's line about America.
Yeah, the list is very long, and I have an article which I'm going to share with you guys later on. And it shows, well, at least for TikTok, I'm going to share it later on, but on YouTube, I can share it right now. But this shows, actually, I think I can share this on TikTok as well. It shouldn't be an issue. Unless I get restricted for it again. I've been getting unnecessarily restricted on TikTok, man. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but let's take a risk. Okay, let's take a risk. Here we go. give me a quick second here. I'm going to share my screen if that is possible. No, it doesn't seem so. All right, cool. I got you guys. So if we're looking at the areas where China is dominating the US and the areas where the US is still ahead of China, right? So if we look at this year, when it comes to quantum, China is ahead. AI technologies, biotechnologies, advanced ICT, sensing, timing, and navigation, defense, space, robotics, and transport. I mean, heck, the US is dependent on China for rare earth minerals to build their military. But you call these guys your adversary. So it always makes me wonder, why would China supply the US rare earth minerals so that they can build up their military to come attack them one day? I think that one is common sense. I think anybody watching this can say that is stupid. So yeah, I don't know how they expect that one to play out, right? Environment and energy, China is ahead by a lot. Advanced materials, unique AUKUS technologies. Then you have hydrogen and ammonia for power, nanoscale materials and manufacturing, high specification machining process, supercapacitors, advanced aircraft engines, coatings, autonomous underwater vehicles, electric batteries. I think China has electric vehicles right now that will charge in about 5 minutes. In the US, the best is Tesla, which is about 15 minutes to charge at this point in time. And of course, the value that the price point that Tesla comes in at is also just ridiculous, because the moment you buy an electric car, the value drops like a stone. I don't know if any of you have an electric car. If you do, don't go look at the valuation of your car, because it's insane. But when I'm in the US, right, I drive a Tesla, and 15 minutes to charge. And that's just charging to 80%, which is where it's recommended. But apparently the Chinese cars I will charge up to in 5 minutes to up to 80%. So you have hypersonic detection and tracking. These are all the areas that China is absolutely crushing the US. The US is still ahead when it comes to vaccines and medical countermeasures. We know how the healthcare system is in the US, right? Quantum computing, small satellites, atomic clocks, nuclear and medicine and radiology. When it comes to natural language processing, I think this might tie in with AI as well. The US is ahead, but not by a lot. Then you have genetic engineering, where the US is ahead as well. So I don't know, man. It seems to me that a lot of what the US is bragging about these days is marketing. It seems to be marketing. What do you guys think? Give me your thoughts on that one. All right. I'm going to play a little bit more of this video.
Private affluence and public squalor, which is devastating because it names something everyone can see, but no one in power wants to admit. You can be a billionaire in San Francisco and step over human feces on your way to your Tesla. You can have the greatest private wealth accumulation in history, and your bridges are crumbling, your trains don't run on time, and your electrical grid fails when it gets too hot or too cold. China went the other way. Public affluence, infrastructure that works, cities that function, high-speed trains that actually exist and run on schedule, subway systems that are clean, streets without tent encampments, and yes, private wealth too. This is not either or. That's the point.
No, I don't agree. I think you brought up a very good point, though. There is only one large adversary to rival the success of the U.S. economy for 250 years with all of its faults. It's still the only country on earth where people will risk their lives drowning under barbed wire in a river to get into. The American dream is the primary export of the country. I don't see a lot of people
I'm not going to
begging
call them
to
a Bob.
live
Why do I
in
call them to
China.
get out of America these days? And when the
Well,
orange man is in,
that's a
it's the
cute
last place
narrative,
I
but
want to
it's
go, and I'm not
250
alone.
years of success. There's never been an economy as successful as the US, and it's still the #1 economy. If you gave me a choice, do I want to go live in China? I have no problem with the Chinese people. The government, I have a huge problem with.
Still the #1 economy. I don't know. Do you guys think the US is still the #1 economy? It seems questionable to me.
They are the adversary.
Did you catch what just happened? Keane talked about measurable outcomes: poverty reduction, industrial production, infrastructure, public services. And O'Leary's response is, people drown trying to get into America. That's his argument. Notice the complete refusal to engage with what Keane actually said. O'Leary doesn't dispute the poverty numbers. He doesn't dispute the infrastructure gap. He doesn't dispute the industrial competition. He can't. So he pivots to mythology. The American dream, barbed wire, freedom. These are not arguments. They're brand slogans, and they're designed to end conversations, not start them. Also, I don't see a lot of people trying to get out of America. Really? Because American immigration is up. Americans are retiring in Portugal, Mexico, Costa Rica, Thailand, everywhere they can afford to actually live.
Listen, I know there is passport bros. This is just one group of people. As much as I dislike these people, passport bros is just one group of people that are traveling outside of the US. But then you have other people who have come to this realization that they're just overtaxed and overcharged for everything. So those group of people are also living in the US. That's not being spoken about. Then you have the brain drain, the absolutely insane brain drain. If you guys are not familiar with this, I would highly recommend you guys take a moment to go look into what has been happening with the brain drain happening from the US to China across so many fields: research and development, technology, education, automotive, right? They've definitely been pulling people from Tesla. They've pulled people from Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Porsche. When it comes to air and space, right? So China is paying all of these people very well to leave the US. These are the things that these guys don't want to talk about. Then, of course, you have the retirees like North Meridian is mentioning here.
The difference is the people leaving America tend to have money and options, so it doesn't make for dramatic border footage. And then the mask fully drops. The government I have a huge problem with. They are the adversary. Not the system, not the outcomes, the government. As if the Chinese government is somehow separate from delivering the results Keane just described. As if you can hate the government and ignore that it's the same government that lifted 800 million people out of poverty and built 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. A physical inability to say, maybe they're doing something right.
Two different thoughts about how a human lives.
Yeah,
Freedom
and I
of
think China's
speech
been far more
versus
successful than America
communism.
has for the vast majority of its population. Chinese aren't the ones who are demonstrating against immigration laws like America's doing at the moment. China doesn't have masses of homeless people on the streets of its city. I've walked through Chinese and American cities, and I tell you which ones I find more comfortable. It's the Chinese, because they don't have to step over a homeless person every 5 meters. Now, that happens in London these days. It certainly happens in San Francisco. There is more discomfort with the political system in America amongst Americans than you'll find amongst the Chinese.
This is the body blow. And you can feel the discomfort in the room when he says it. He's talking about daily life, what it actually feels like to walk through a city. Can you walk without stepping over homeless people? Do you feel safe? Do the trains work? Is there visible misery in the streets? And the answer for most Chinese people in cities across the country is that quality of life has improved dramatically and visibly. Meanwhile, in the West's flagship cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, New York, you cannot walk a block without confronting the failure of the system to take care of its most vulnerable. And O'Leary has no response to this. None. Because there is no response. You can't argue with someone's lived experience of clean, safe, functional cities by saying, but freedom. Also, reread Keen's line about discomfort with the political system. There is more open discontent, more protest, more visible anger at the government in America right now than in China. That's just a fact. Americans broadly...
Yeah, this this is what I was saying earlier. I think he articulated it a little bit better than I would. I think there is more discontent amongst the Americans towards their government versus the Chinese population to their government. When I went to China, for sure, I did not see any homeless people. Everyone was about business, and their work ethic was so insane. That's one thing I would say I definitely would like to copy from those people. The work ethic was absolutely insane. And you can see the results because you can see the country that they have now.
Don't trust their institutions. They don't trust Congress, they don't trust the media, they don't trust each other. The country is coming apart at the seams. And Keen is right to point out that the average Chinese citizen does not share that level of alienation from their own society. Whether you attribute that to propaganda or genuine satisfaction, the outcome is the same. One population broadly believes their country is moving in the right direction.
Well, I can't wait to see your home in Shanghai. That sounds great.
Well, come and visit.
Shanghai is Shanghai is an amazing city.
It is,
I did a documentary in Shanghai.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an incredible place to go.
And I've been to, I lived in a fourth tier city for some time, only 4 million people, quite small by Chinese standards. And I spent about a month or two playing tennis with people there, going to have meals at local Chinese restaurants. There's a high quality of life at the average standard
I
of
agree
living.
the people are fantastic,
America
but
has
that
extremely
government
wealthy
policy is
people
world
and extremely
domination.
poor. And this,
I don't want my kids living under Chinese rule
well,
anywhere
your
in the
kids
world.
can stay
That's
where
what
they are,
want.
but I think a lot of kids in China are enjoying growing in China right now. And conversations I have with ordinary Chinese people, quite a wide range of lifestyles. They don't see they don't have the adversarial attitude toward the government that you.
Listen, your kids living under Chinese rule is not the worst thing that can happen. Okay, the same money does not unlame you, and Kevin O'Leary is definitely a loser. Okay, I've seen his his AI investments right now is one of the areas that is not working out so great. He's definitely pumped money into this thing. I remember during the crypto times, okay, this guy was trying to snatch up whatever he could in the crypto industry. I still believe that he had a huge hand behind CZ getting arrested for money laundering. Well, after CZ came out and called him a liar on TV, to be fair. But, you know, I've come across multiple situations like this where Kevin O'Leary is so confident about whatever it is he's talking about as an investor, and then it turns out that you're just blowing hot smoke, man. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't know where you're going. And I think this is the same situation here. You cannot talk down at China, that's for sure, because the evidence is there. And I think that's one thing that I would highly recommend to anyone. You know, Ford's CEO, the CEO of Ford right now, is driving a Chinese car so that he can learn and so that he can now work on building the next phase of cars. And one of his analysts was telling him that they are at least 25 years behind China. It's not just in the automotive space. I think it's in all those other sectors that I shared with you there on that outline, right? On that article that I pulled up. So again, this is the elites being so out of touch with the fact that their empire is sliding, leaning, dropping, falling to the downside, and there is nothing they can do about it. And the unfortunate thing about it is that it's not that America does not have the financial power to change its trajectory, but the problem is it's profit over everything. They will cut their nose to spite their face. Even with this downfall that is going on, these people will still prefer to do anything to make more profits than to uphold or sustain and fight to keep their country economically viable. But they keep acting like there is no way America can make it all the way down. I think that is where they are disconnected, because the reality is China has already surpassed the US in many ways. The US, which is a country with the highest spending budget, is not able to demonstrate what the biggest military budget is supposed to be against someone like Iran. So why do these people feel so confident that things are still moving in a positive direction for their country? It's an interesting one, but it's also very disappointing, because I know that the US can be, great again, as Mr. Orange Guy puts it, right? Great again. But the reality is it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until they change their ways, right? Well, I'm going to wrap up my YouTube stream here, and I'll just continue streaming on. I actually want to continue streaming on TikTok. I want to see how long I can go on TikTok. I'm trying to understand the platform as well. So I'll wrap up my YouTube stream here. And yes. Until next time, okay, people of the YouTube world. Okay, catch y'all later.